Um, thank you. Thank you, Adam. While we are kind of settling in, I would like to provide a little bit information about the last film. Actually, if we have time, I can show some picture. But basically, it took 2 years for the filmmaker to make that piece. Originally, it was made for an installation and to play in a loop. So what he was trying to achieve was a sense of there's no difference, or you can't tell whether uh, uh, explosion or destruction or construction is the beginning or the end. So, when you enter the space, you could experience the explosion first or reconstruction first. Okay. So we have the filmmakers here. So on top, Tony Wu, who made Noah Noah. Can we?
Hello，
And Tzu-An on the right, who made Yiren, the person of whom I think. And the bottom left, Yen-Chao LIN, who, who made the spirit keeper of Makutai. I would like to ask you if you have immediate question, or I can start a few. Okay, maybe I will start a few. So, Tony,
嗯
Tony,
，Hello，
yeah, your film used a variety of personal material, such as postcard, email, like a lot of diary films. It feels like the film is like a spinning sphere where time is not linear, and it feels like you brought us back and forth in between the past and present. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about your thoughts on filmmaking intimacy and memory.
好，蛮大的一个问题。那我就讲中文。那个我们有一个翻译嘛，对。那这个片里面用的影像是我从1996到2003年所拍摄的8厘米的影像，大部分都是旅行，就是关于我的生活，然后把就是这些影像重新编辑制作。对，那嗯，因为那时候我在那个旧金山，从1996到1999住了大概有4年的时间，然后那时候因为就在做实验片嘛，那那时候就有2个想法，一个就是说，呃，以前做的片子都很抽象，那我就想说，趁要毕业前做一个跟我的生活记录我的生活有关的影片。那另外一个想法是，就是以前在学校，就这些很抽象的作品，很多都是课堂作业。那这些课堂作业就是，嗯呃，都很短，然后一部片大概就是一个概念。所以我到毕业前我就想，有没有可能把就是4年所学的这些各种不同的技法、实验的概念、技法，把它全部整合起来， 所以在这个片子里面，我就用到蛮多不同的手法。对，这是就大家可以看到，就是有很多种不同规格的电影胶卷嘛，8厘米，然后早期的那个 Regular 8，然后超8、16等等，然后用那个光学印片重制，然后也做了一些手工，然后我还有一些实景，然后其实有到摄影棚里面去拍，然后也用了那个单格 single frame 的手法去拍的那些明信片。那这些是圆圆。
First of all, thank you. It's such a big question. Um, to introduce myself, I actually studied in San Francisco since 1996 to 1999, and majority of the footage was the videos I shot in 1999 to 2003, from my trip, of my travels, or my personal life or experiences. Um, so I always reassemble all those footages into this film, mainly because two reasons. Because when I was studying here, I made I have two different ideas. The first idea is that majority of the film we made here is quite abstract, and I was thinking that at the time when I'm gonna graduate, maybe I want to do something different, something that kind of document my life here, my personal life. And on the other hand, I was thinking a lot of the assignment I did here are quite short, were very short. They were like one idea, one concept, and then made into a work. So I was hoping to utilizing all the techniques, things I learned in all the 4 years I spent here into one work. Um, and as you can see, there are so many different kind of film footages in this film, like 8mm, Super 8, 16mm, and single frame, videos, etc.
optical printing 之类的，对，handmade。
And also handmade footage.
嗯，这样有回
Thank
答
you.
吗？
Did that answer a question?
就
Yeah,
嗯，
thank you. Thank you for sharing. Um, maybe I will ask a question. This is a question for Yen-Chao. In your film, we see a lot of elements related to spiritual sustenance or religious practice. Um, it seems like in a form of documentary, but not entirely so. It reminds me as a filmmaker, uh, the practice of filmmaking can also be seen as a kind of a ritual. And your work is often concerned with religion, spirituality, or oral tradition. I wonder if you could just talk a little bit more about what motivated you to make this project.
Yeah, so I in 2018 I did a residency in small indigenous village of Makutai. It's a village in Hualien, so it's on the east coast of Taiwan. And my initial project going there was to make an experimental film documenting the different religious or spiritual practices and different faith expressions of that area. And I was living in a tribal village, if we can call it, 一个部落. And the traditional sorcerer healer type of person is called a jigavasai, but the village no longer had a jigavasai, this kind of sorcerer healer. So my film kind of, I would say maybe expanded into just documenting the different spiritual practices of that area. Some elements might not be entirely visible in the film. Like, for example, the Taoist temple where I shot a lot of footage, it was actually a Japanese Shinto temple. It was built during the Japanese colonial area, but has since been appropriated into a Taoist temple. And I work a lot with film, mostly with Super 8, and I do a lot of hand processing. And I've always compared this my hand processing process to alchemy, because I feel like there's magic in capturing an image with the silver grand emotion coated film, and then you have to go into a dark room and use those chemicals to perform this magical ritual until the image actually reveals itself.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. And the next question for Tzu-An.
Yeah.
In your film, the film also used a lot of found material. Also, there's a poem by Chou Gangjian, as well as some footage you shot by yourself. Those materials, I feel they merged really well and then put together very naturally, um, as if they came from the same source. I was wondering if you could talk about like how you began this project, and was this project inspired by Chou Gangjian's poem, and why you decide to use this two-channel format?
Okay, yes. Thanks for your question. And so I think I started this project right like maybe 2015 or earlier, that the beginnings that my friend's publishing company was releasing a poem collections of Chou Gangjian. And in that time that I didn't know who he is. And then also, so that was like 2013. So I was like having this idea. I read through the whole poem collection, and I think, okay, so I probably collect some uh lines I have feeling with, and then to recycle some of my unfinished projects. And then I was especially touched this line that like so I think like your moon have the Hollywood movies that you have seen. So which I think is really queer in a way, that like that time you so like it's more like a our narrative of emotions kind of like forming by the films we have seen, even it's like the Hollywood movies. And I think that is really beautiful. So I basically using this concept that to recycle with a lot of my like super diary, mostly Etachrome or Chi X, like more like a reversal film, so that I can uh just like a rephotograph with the projection without the fear of scanning. And then also I was rephotographing a lot of karaoke video, either online or in like a real karaoke. And then also some of the film footage is kind of related to Chou Gangjian's projects, which things I've actually never seen. A lot of them are from pirate websites. Because like the time was growing up, like he was kind of like one of the ignored uh film masters. Like he's also a script writer, and he made like a really strange films in the 70s, 80s. So yeah, so it's a collage of everything mixed together.
Sounds great. Thank you. Any questions from the audience? Yes. Which film were you referring to? Oh, Eden. Did you catch that?
Could you say it one more time? 导演他对那个伊人这个电影很感兴趣，他很想知道您在选择就是左右这种呈现形式的时候，您的这种创作的思路是怎样的？然后您是怎么选择什么在左边，什么在右边的？可以简单介绍一下。
所以我好像是怎么讲？因为他一开始就是有点像是一个情书的计划，所以就我那个时候的想法很单纯，就是他可能是某个人要跟某个人讲什么话，然后他可能会 back and forth 这样子，然后他也可能是我跟邱阳健，或者是其中另外就是一些比较 personal 的事情，比方说那个其实有2个 narrator，可因为他们的声音很像，所以很多人会误会，就是我那时候找我2个 gay 朋友，然后叫他们用最恶心的方式念，然后就是要念的很，我不知道怎么讲，就是很装模作样，很做作这样，对，然后对，所以就有一开始有这个设定是双荧幕，然后这是我第一次做就 double channel 嘛，所以就觉得发现其实有很多东西可以玩，比方说就是有一些是放 footage，那放 footage 我可以把它做你讲 multiple exposure，然后去改变它的造型，然后把它就因为它是双荧幕，可是它同时也是可以当成一个荧幕看，就是比方说2个画面的 composition，它可以是相关的。
Um, yeah, so at the beginning, I was hoping to make this film like like a love letter. So originally I was quite and my thought was quite simple. I was imagining it's like a conversation, a person talking to another person back and forth, or something more personal like me talking to Chu or he talks to me. It's like a two different narratives, but they may feel similar, or it may create misunderstandings. Um, however, for the with the audio part, I did invite my two gay friends and ask them to read it as gross as possible, quite pretentious in a pretentiously way, and that kind of makes me feel different about this form. And also, it's also my first time making a two-channel piece. And as you can see, I use a lot of found footage. Um, and even though it's two-channel, there are so many different ways to play with it. We can change the form of it, or it's actually two frame, and so you can use it at two different frame and position different content inside of it as a different narrative.
Any other questions? Yes. That's a good question. So maybe that's a question for each filmmaker.
他们很想问一下大家，各位导演是如何开始做实验电影的？是怎么开始喜欢的？他非常好奇。
我先吗？
好啊。
就是非常久、非常非常久以前，在台湾，台湾有一个那时候只有一个国际影展，叫金马国际影展，在1985年就曾经放过实验电影的专题，然后那时候我才高中毕业，高中刚毕业，高中。所以很喜欢看电影，就去影展，什么都看，就看了这个实验片的专题，所以这应该算是一个起点，就是那时候，但看了之后完全无法理解，但是很奇妙的这个东西就一直在脑中，就是在脑海中这样，所以那时候就是所有美国经典的实验片都在这个专题里面。 然后第二个阶段是因为我有参与实验剧场，就是台湾的小剧场，所以在小剧场里面就开始尝试很多表演跟影像结合的一些手法，就是有一些实验性这样。所以这两个阶段就呃逐渐，其实也没有很清楚，就逐渐摸索出其实想要往实验片制作的创作的方向去走。那这里面还有一个记忆，就是台湾有一个短片竞赛，里面有实验片的奖，有实验片的奖项。那我就常常去看这个叫金穗奖，就是常常去看，然后就看到里面的实验片。所以后来就发现这些呃台湾的导演都是美国几个以实验电影为主的艺术学院毕业的，所以那时候我就想说，也许这就需要往这边去，就是出国去念书，就是旧金山艺术学院跟芝加哥艺术学院这样。
Tony talked about at beginning. When he was younger, there was only one most important film festival in Taiwan, which is called Golden Horse Film Festival. In 1985, probably. And at that time, he just graduated, and he went to this festival. And without knowing anything, he was so interested in this experimental film screening showcase. And he considered that as the beginning of his enthusiasm towards experimental film, even though at that time he couldn't really understand what the film was talking about, but it keeps lingering in his mind for a long time. Especially at the festival, there were a lot of U.S. classical experimental films selected at that time, and he was able to immerse in the experimental film world. And on the second part of his exploration of his career is through experimental theater. He joined this theater and be able to try out a lot of different techniques and trying to mix performances and videos together. And gradually he started to felt maybe he want to explore the making of experimental film. Then there was a film festival in Taiwan called Chen-Hui Golden Harvest Film Festival. It has an award for experimental films. And by watching all those films every year, he finds out a lot of the director were graduated from the United States, the U.S. prestigious experimental film school. So that was the time he decided that he wanted to go to study in the U.S.
Thank you. Yen-Chao, maybe you can go the next.
Okay, so I come from a studio art background. The main focus of my practice is actually more in visual arts, in studio arts. And I have a very tactile practice. I work a lot with my hands, and a lot of times I would use like traditional craft techniques. So when I started to study film in university, it was just a natural process for me to start working with film. I was initially very interested in the physicality of film as a material and as a medium, as a material. And then it was just like a natural process for me to start hand processing film, optical printing, and also play with cameraless films. And but my films are not necessarily abstract in itself. There is a story, but it's not necessarily a narrative linear story. And in my studio artwork, I tend to steer away from representation, and I tend to focus on more abstract work. And I think maybe my films are to some extent less abstract than my visual arts installations.
Thank you. Tzu-An?
For me, it's like so it's a little bit like Tony, but I'm a little bit younger than Tony. Not a little bit, but so it's more like when I was a teenager, I was more like a very joy into like I guess Japanese animation or all kind of stuff. So then I realized like for example, like there's a lot of cultural linkage between film and animations, and that's all was like so for example like the Shoujo Revolution Utena is actually highly linked with like the theater of Terama Shuji. And so that time, like in early 2000s, I was more like I'm very much a geek. So I was researching a lot of stuff through internet, like ubu.com, that kind of like yeah, that kind of stuff. And then also like going to film festivals, like nuclear cinemas, that kind of, like American nuclear cinema, like Todd Hands, that kind of stuff. I was very interested in that. And then gradually I kind of like learns more about experimental films through like those more popular culture kind of stuff because I kind of like found the linkage between them and then also I also decide to went to the States that I was studying in New York in the new school and then sort of more participating in this kind of community and then yeah so that's how I started.
Thank you. Any more questions? Yes.
Can you all hear me through Zoom? Yeah, okay, okay. First of all, I just want to say it is a pleasure to experience your work. My question is for Ian as well. I noticed that the poetry in the film used a very abstract way to illustrate, but the English subtitle comparing to the actual poetry is much more direct. And I'm wondering your creative decision on why choose a more straightforward way to illiterate in English. I can do the Chinese one as well. 首先，我想说，今天能看到你们的作品真的特别开心，谢谢你们今天花时间和我们做视频问答。我的问题也是给蚁人的。我注意到影片中的诗歌采用了非常抽象的方式来表达，但是英文字幕相比原诗却更加直接。我很好奇，就是您在创作时为什么会选择用更直白的方式来呈现英文翻译？
可能就是因为我英文没有很好，我不知道。没有啊，我觉得怎么讲？因为很多，因为他的诗其实很后现代，对不对？后现代这个词有点 is not popular anymore, but so it's basically impossible to translate. So I think like instead of like playing with my limited ability of English, I'll just choose a more direct and humble way, since there's already a lot going on the screen. And with the song. So yeah.
Yeah, the director is saying because his English wasn't that good, maybe that's the reason. But to be honest, he felt a lot of Chu's poem are very abstract. They are maybe there isn't a word to describe it, but he think maybe it's post-modern.
Yeah, I think it's
Post-contemporary.
kind of like yeah, because like
Yeah.
basically he's yes he turned out to be a poet in his late years, but it's actually the style of it is kind of like those like a modernism way of his film work. If you haven't seen any of it, I highly recommend it because it's like a very formalism, that kind of stuff. But so instead, like in the poetry that he was using a lot of ways to playing with the wording or the breakout of the wordings, and so for me it's kind of impossible to translate into English, or at least I don't have the ability. do that. So
Thank you. Okay, if there's no more questions, we should wrap up. Yeah, yeah. All right. Thank you for all the filmmaker. Thank you for being here.
thank you.
Thank you, Yan.